I'm
Welcome,
nervous.
Michelle. This is so nice to actually have you on this YouTube and podcast interview. I'm so excited to have you. Please, would you mind, for the benefit of our audience and our listeners, to just give a little bit of a background about yourself? What did your career journey look like up to today?
Okay. Thanks, Yoka. I'm looking forward to sharing some of my experiences with you and all the information that you're looking for today. My journey, for the last, well, it must say it's over 30 odd years, I was involved in the PA industry and on an executive level. So I worked for a lot of your CEOs and senior executive people for the last 10 years of my career.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a goal I set myself and I achieved that goal. And within that time period, that's where I started setting myself up, for doing my own thing and going into training, etc.
And where did the training take you? Was it mostly in South Africa or was it abroad?
Well, I was a runner-up in the Office Professional of the Year, and
Oh,
that opened doors for me to become a speaker. So I spoke a lot on relevant topics in the PA business. And from there, the training bit me, and I found that more interesting. That was more my, how can I say, I felt more comfortable in the training area than I did in the speaking engagement area. And that's where it started. And yeah, just started putting my feelers out to people and letting them know that I'm open for training.
and it must have been interesting because you were saying just now that for almost 10 years you were actually an executive assistant for top NCOs. So
Yes,
did you, like, you're actually speaking from experience, right?
yes, yes. Not NCOs, PA to the CEOs and your senior executives in a company, yes.
So what is the difference, would you say, between a personal assistant and a virtual assistant? I mean, right now in lockdown, people can't actually even be in someone's office. So are there
Yes.
similarities or differences? What would you say?
I think both are very similar, except one is virtual, obviously. But the same principles, the same disciplines apply. You've got to be skilled in certain areas. You've got to apply yourself to the job as if it's a job. Just because you're working virtually does not mean to say you don't get up in the morning, get dressed, and start working, because that's the kind of mindset you've got to get into to keep working. So a lot of the disciplines as a PA, both face-to-face and virtually, are exactly the same.
So what kind of things in your training that you've done overseas and that, what kind of things does PAs and virtual assistants, what kind of skills do they need when you're actually equipping them? Where are you finding the gaps?
Okay, what I find most interesting and that the delegates actually appreciate is communication, both written and verbal. They find communication is very important and they want to improve on that skill, specifically business writing, because it is very needed in a company today. And then, of course, time management. A lot of ladies find they just don't seem to get through enough in a day. How do they manage their time or prioritize their tasks? And another big thing is how to say no. A lot of
Wow.
ladies can't say no to somebody, so of course they get overloaded and get stressed out at the same time. And we tend to cover and go into detail on those areas specifically.
When you're saying no, it actually makes me think of something really interesting. I don't know if you ever read about the airplane crashes where there was a lack of communication, where they were analyzing the black boxes,
Yes,
and what they found there is that the captain and the co-captain, that there was a bit of a situation where the person that was actually flying at the time, if he wasn't the captain, he would be too scared to actually say to the captain, I think you're making a mistake. We should watch out
yes.
for this. They were just submitting. Have you found that with the saying no, that it's sometimes a cultural thing, that they feel the CEO or this top end manager, they can't possibly stand up to him or her?
Yeah, it's a lot of girls find, or late, well, as gentlemen as well. I can't be specific on gender, but you sometimes get those bosses that you find it very hard to speak to them, converse with them, to even say no or question their ideas or their reasons for what they are doing. And when I say they find it difficult to say no is when sometimes one or two of the other managers come through and want them to do some work as well. And the ladies find it very hard to say no. I usually say to them, look, just mention what you are busy with at the moment and maybe suggest another time, or actually put it in their pocket. Say to them, when would you like this by? What is the latest I can get it to you by? And then work towards that deadline. So you're not actually saying no, but you're giving an option that you can do the work, but just not right now. It is difficult when you can't converse with your boss. Some bosses come across very strong, very bullish, although I'm not saying that they are bullies, but they're very tough and hard. And you get a PA who is very soft-spoken and introverted. They will find it difficult to push back in a nice way.
It sounds almost a bit like the agile approach. I always laugh at my husband. He says to me, how they operate in the programming spaces, they operate in sprints. So at the beginning of the sprint, they'll do like a sprint planning to actually say what is possible that can get done in the next 2 weeks. And then and it's almost something that a PA or a VA must do with their clients or their boss to say, you know, what are the priorities and to figure out how long things will take. Because if things aren't possible, sometimes people just sit with unrealistic expectations, as I call it, and that poor VA, should they now work through the night and not sleep for a week because they don't have the assertiveness skills that you're teaching them. So I think it's actually so crucial. I wanted to ask you something else. You spoke about business writing. Is that mostly emails, or where do people get it wrong? You know, specifically in your classroom, where have you found, sure, they need to learn a lot on business writing?
Where they're getting it wrong is they feel they need to use all the jargon and the big important words to sound important and good in their writing. And business writing can be anything. Anything you do from a business perspective, your emails, whether you're WhatsApping or messaging a client by SMS, or whether you're writing a letter or a report. What people need to understand today is that business writing has been simplified. No longer is it necessary to write these long, what can I say? I'm going to call it boring reports or long emails. People are just too busy today. They have 101, maybe more emails coming through a day. They don't have the time to read through a whole lot of writing before they get to the point on what is expected of them from that email. So it's basically simplifying. And a lot of people I find, because I train a lot in the East, they find by simplifying, they feel they're not being polite, yet they are. And I explain to them and I show them that by doing, you know, something more simply is polite. Please and thank you. Simple. You know, you don't need more than that. You don't have to go and make the please sound awfully beautiful when you're asking someone for something.
What are you finding in terms of language, Michele? Is a lot of the PAs and virtual assistants, is English not their first language? And do you actually have to help them improve on their language usage in communication as well?
Not really. Even though English is their second language, I am amazed at how well they speak. Some may speak a little bit slowly and more hesitantly, but they make sense. So it hasn't been difficult to train them in English. As I said, I am blown away. I thought I'd have a problem, but I have not. I've been pleasantly surprised.
Thank you so much. As I mentioned to you the other day, I'm part of an international community of facilitators, and something that came up the other day on a call, and that's why I reached out to you and said, we need to do this interview. People need your expertise, is so many facilitators operating as solopreneurs. So they're completely on their own, and they are seeing the opportunity to actually make use of a virtual assistant, but they don't know how to go about it. So what advice can you give to business owners or solopreneurs about delegating to a virtual assistant?
Well, first of all, virtual assistant is going to make your life easier. They are there as your PA, just not in an office. and they can operate and do the mundane tasks that you would be tied down doing if you're extremely busy. They can take that over from you. What they need to understand is that communication is vital. Because you're not actually seeing this person, you need to be able to communicate quite regularly and be specific in what it's the tasks and stuff that you are needing. And I see the VA business is growing like crazy, especially now in COVID, during COVID-19 and the lockdowns. People are starting to see the benefits of using a virtual assistant. So for us who have been in the game, an opportunity for us to get to know and find more clients. And I see one or two business owners who are now working remotely have realized we're not going back to the office now. We're going to get a virtual assistant in. There are so many benefits to having a virtual assistant as opposed to working in the office.
So if you're talking about delegating, what could be a good tool to use? Would it literally be just sending an email, or would there be specific tasks that a person has to, for instance, put in a Google spreadsheet? Or what would be a good approach to delegate the tasks, and what format would you say works best?
Okay, remember, business owners are now relying on the expertise of the PA or the virtual assistant. So when they pass a task on to you, they're going to assume you are going to know what you are doing. As I said to many VAs, don't go in as a jack of all trades. Go in with a specific niche, something that you are positive and confident in doing. And even if it's just 3 or 4 things, stick with that. You're going to be in better stead doing that than trying to do something you're not sure of and just telling people, oh, but I can do anything. So for a business owner to delegate a task, they would usually do it by email or via phone call, WhatsApp. Technology is amazing. So there are so many different forms. Or they can communicate via Zoom or Skype. For instance, I have 2 clients that I meet with once a week. Although we work via email and telephone calls sometimes, we find it necessary to meet once a week to go over what's been done, what we're going to do going forward, etc. And that works out very well. But most of my communication is via email.
And are you finding when you meet that person once a week, it's also a great space to kind of detox or debrief what's worked, what hasn't? So just to kind of keep the performance communication channels open, because I know that you have done leadership and emotional intelligence training as well. And we have spoken about the importance of feedback in the past. So would you say a VA needs to learn how to ask for feedback as well?
Absolutely. It's important because we think we're doing okay, but maybe in the eyes of the client, we're skipping something somewhere. So it's always good just to talk about it. And also if there's any questions, better to ask face to face than to ask in an email, because you can get lost in because I notice many people do not read their emails or their messages properly. So they miss the point.
Michele, you were mentioning niches. Would you mind elaborating a little bit more maybe on some of the things that a niche could entail?
Yes. For instance, if you are good at event planning, for instance, or if you are good at PowerPoint presentations, or if you are good at admin work, basic filing or keeping things up to date or inputting of data, you would focus on those, and that would be your niche. That would be your area. I've been very fortunate that the people that I'm working with, there are new things that I'm learning, sometimes challenging because I'm a very practical type of person. So it means literally working on it and getting to know it. And I'm okay. But the client has confidence in teaching me or letting me learn this new trade, if you want to call it, and then getting on with the task. Lately, people send me presentations. I literally have to just smarten it up a bit to make it a little bit more professional. They just chuck all the data in. I do the rest for them.
If you are training PAs and virtual assistants, what do you specifically offer to them, and who can benefit from this, from your training courses for VAs and personal assistants?
Who can benefit? Definitely your VAs and PAs.
What do they learn?
what do they learn? Well, we go through time management, prioritization, delegation of tasks, working strategically, being a partner with your client instead of, I always say, you don't work for the client, you work with the client. So you're a partner in many ways. And we work on that. But communication, definitely, the people have asked specifically for that, and we spend a lot of time on that. Emotional intelligence has come up because some people just feel they can't manage certain things, and we show them how they can. You've done emotional intelligence yourself, so you know how important that is.
Very.
So yes, and at the moment I'm training on what we call e-colors. It talks to the personality of the person, and it all ties in because you work a lot on your self-awareness. So the EQ comes in again as well, and it just shows and helps people know how other people filter and interpret information that is different to them, and it'll help them to communicate better. So you have less frustration, less irritation if you're able to communicate to a person on their level, not on your level. So we definitely go into that. And I also go into leadership skills because as a VA, you're your own business. You've got to have some leadership skills. You can't expect to just go yes or no so all the time. So a lot of assertiveness comes into being a leader at some point. And yeah, all these particular skills stand you in very good stead to run your business productively and to be the best that you are.
Definitely. Where are you offering these courses? Is it just available in South Africa through your own business, or where can people find out about your courses and work with you?
Okay, all right. So I do offer these courses here in South Africa, but as I said, most of my training happens overseas. I spend more time overseas than here, but with lockdown, online training has become the norm. So I'm busy with that at the moment. People can get hold of me on my website, which is www.empoweredforsuccess, the 4 being the numerical 4. And then they can get hold of me on my email, michelle@empoweredforsuccess.co.za.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. What is your style of training? What can people expect of a training session with Michelle?
I don't stand up there and train and talk and tell you what you must and mustn't do. I'm a facilitator. So I encourage you to participate, and I find that works the best because you suddenly get this wow moment. Wow, it's not just me going through this. It's not just me who has that problem. So-and-so has this problem. They've dealt with it this way. Maybe I can try it this way. So I encourage delegates to share and not rely on me to give them. I give them whatever information I've got, but I want to hear from them as well because I'm dealing with people who are professionals in their own right. They've been in the game long enough as well, and I'm dealing with ladies who've been in the game 10 years and more. I'm not dealing with newly bred PAs. So I give them the benefit of the doubt, and I like to hear what they've got to say. It's incredibly important.
Brilliant. Has there been any success stories, people that you're really proud of, that you've either done training or coaching with, that you could just share with us?
I'm going to go back to when I was working, and yes, there is 1 or 2 ladies who I helped, who I coached. One was a lady in risk and compliance. She just couldn't say no to her boss, who was a real bully at the best of times. He always had her in tears, but I managed to get her to the point where she was able to push back without being nasty or disrespectful. And the moment she did that, she became a different person. A couple of months after that, she got headhunted and is working in Cape Town, still at the same firm and doing incredibly well. I am so proud of her. There was another lady who was she was a cleaning lady. I saw the potential in her to do more than just be a cleaning lady. The tea lady spot opened up. She came in. Suddenly, she was earning a decent salary, got medical aid, etc., and she was blown away. Today, she's working in admin. She became a receptionist and working in admin. She's got a beautiful voice and doing so well. So those are just 2 small things. And there was another lady as well who just wanted to be another Michelle. I said, oh no, that's not a good thing, but let's help you get to where you want to be. Today, she's also flourishing in another job and doing very well. So those are little things. I've had a lot of feedback from my training as well, where ladies have put some things into practice, and it has paid off. It has done well for them. They know they can contact me at any time. I always put together a WhatsApp group after I finish training, and we can keep in touch with each other all the time. So they can ask me anything, anytime.
Michele, just as a last thing, do you develop any content, or are there any blog articles out there that people can read? Or I think I heard murmurs about you writing a book at a stage. What can you tell us about this?
The book is still in progress. I need to get that done, I must be honest. It is on communication. I have done blogs. I've done a few blogs in my time. I've become very slack in that area. I need to start that up again because I find people get a lot out of them. I usually write a blog when something happens, and on the spur of the moment, I sit down and I just pen to paper, and then I set it up. So yes, I will be starting again for the sake of the ladies and gentlemen out there.
Brilliant. Just the last question. If there's a business owner out there, like this group of facilitators that I spoke about earlier, and let's say they now want to hire a VA in a different country, would you advise them potentially to put their VA on a course? And how, what are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. If it's relevant to their job or whatever they are doing, and they feel they need to improve on that any particular skill, absolutely. But remember, most trainings and stuff are at the cost of the VA. It's very rare that a client will pay for the cost of a VA that I've heard of. As a VA, you're on your own. You sort out your own medical, your own tax, your own everything, which used to be done by the company. So when it comes to training, it's up to you. And if you feel you need training, I'm busy coaching a lady at the moment who is currently upskilling herself and doing studies. And yes, she's doing it on her own.
Brilliant, brilliant.
Yeah.
And just lastly, how should a business owner go about finding a VA? What would be the hiring process that you would recommend for them?
There are different avenues that an owner can go into. He just needs to Google virtual assistants, and there are loads of companies who actually source assistants out, virtual assistants out, or there are some people who operate on their own. I myself either operate on my own or I operate through a company who sources my clients for me, and they are very good at what they do. Their rates are very, what can I say, market related. You don't want to outprice yourself in the market because you'll lose the business. But they can go anywhere. It is out there on Google, has a lot to offer.
Any last thoughts from your side?
From my side, just to the VAs out there, if you're working for yourself and you're working for clients, just give it your best. And you don't need to work for just one client. It all depends on how busy your client keeps you. I work for 5 at the moment. So I have to time manage my time. So each client gets a certain amount of time. Some days one will get more than the other. It depends on the workload that comes in. But you need to monitor that. So just keep your time management in check and stick to what you know.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Michele. It was an honor having you on here today.
Thanks. It was great being here too. Thank you.